for that reminder. Um, and take a look around the room. Who are you going on this adventure with today? Who are you here with? You know, these are your co-adventurers, your co-creators, your co-journeyers. You know, and one of the things that we always, Kate said, can we revisit our agreement? So we'll get to do that in just a few moments in a fun, playful way. But one of those first ones that I love is really seeing the greatness, looking for the greatness in each of us. So as we do that, putting ourselves in that first point of practice, really taking a look. And Eric, if it is possible to be on video, we're so honored to have a man with us. We don't get that a lot in these classes because I tend to go a little bit, all my ads, all the people who I reach out to, specifically tend to be women. But please know that you are welcome and love to be seen. And as you look around, just noticing, what does it look like when you choose to see the greatness in each and every one of us? When you pick that lens to look through. So back to my excitement with Kate. I'm so excited. I've known Kate, oh my God, wow. I think we're pushing like 17, 18 years. I have gotten to witness her path and her journey. And it's really a thing to get to know someone over time and get to witness their evolution and to get to watch them catch the scent of the essence and the truth of what they are, and then to go boldly towards it, even when there isn't a path that's been carved out to follow that's easily understood and known by others. I think of Kate as one of the boldest people I know. And I also think of Kate as someone who's very powerful and potent in understanding that she has access to a very, very powerful form of life force. And she has found a way to direct it in a way in her life that not only is in serving to her full thriving as a human, but is truly in service to all of us. She's chosen the path of healing. She's chosen the path to teaching, and she's just a gardener in so many ways. I think you've probably seen her bio, so I'm not going to go through all the details, but I want you to know a couple of things about her just to help ground and focus on the lens that you look at her through. And one of the things I just love about Kate is that she lives in a wide web, I have gotten to scrape and create sheepskins with her. I have gotten to sit in ceremony with her. I've gotten to be in the garden with her and tend bees with her. And we have sat in grief together. And I have danced with her on the dance floors. And I've watched her go through this extraordinary path of really becoming a somatic sex educator and erotic embodiment guide. And what I love about her is that she is so grounded to the earth as she brings forth these deep teachings and lessons, and really giving both men and women access to this part of themselves. Little bits about like where she's learned from. I know that, you know what? I don't think that's not in her bio, but I know that she's very well learned and has been studying with many, many people. And I'm not going to take any more time except to hand over the reins. And Kate, did you want us to go over agreements? Did you want us to share what agreements we've worked with in the past, or do you want to help guide us through that yourself? What would be best?
I mean, I just had a few that I will put into the mix, but would it be helpful? It feels like it'd be helpful for me to know what terrain I'm in.
Sure.
And
Um,
I don't know, not everyone is part of the ongoing class yet, or maybe come and gone.
so this class is part of the Unity story course, and it's also our guest teachers are open to our whole community. So we have most of the people here are from Unity, and then we also have some people who have stepped in just for this one class. And for those of you who are familiar and can remember some of our agreements, could you pop up your hand and remind us what is the kind of community and culture that we thrive in? Yes, Stephanie.
Well, the first one that comes to mind is that we all arrive ready to hold the space for each other. If we need to like pop out to go to the bathroom or grab a cup of tea, just say be right back in the chat box.
Mhm.
And confidentiality, obviously, is a big one. And if anybody else wants to hop in.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you, Melly.
One of them was also to be careful with the shares in like writing while someone is speaking. So to find a moment of kind of in between to be able to write your messages.
Great. In the chat box.
Yeah, to be fully present as a speaker and a listener.
Yes, Katja.
To kind of try to be the best of yourself, if you know what I mean, the English.
Yeah.
And turn up with your best intention, with your best abilities.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, Kariana.
And to also not put someone on a pedestal above yourself or below yourself, put yourself on a pedestal. It's that we're all equals and we're all evolving and all changing.
Yes. Ms. Mary.
To be clear of who you're doing this for, that we're not trying to be people pleasers to please Leah, but to do it for ourselves.
Great. You guys have an amazing memory. I'm really impressed. Is there anything else? Yes, Melly.
There was one that I enjoyed really and touched me, to not hold each other to their story, but to know that it's a process, and once it's out, it's already changing. So to witness and to let new come in and old, but not to hold static.
Right. That commitment to impermanence, to allow the story to be temporary and shifting. Yes, Mary?
If someone, and I thought this was, if someone has a problem with someone else, to please go directly to that person. And if that doesn't really work, go to Leah, not to other people in the group.
Thank you. I'm going to add one more that is evolving, and it's using the word safety, because I know a lot of us are really committed to being in safe places. And I find this word very complex and confusing, because to me, a safety is, I think of a safety box. I think of something that you get locked inside of. And I think of a lot of very tender-footed activities that happen because you're trying to be so safe and keep everyone so safe. And when I say that, I don't think that we can keep other people safe. I think that we can't control their triggers. We can't control their upsets. What we can do is be incredibly considerate. And what I want to say is make a case for being in a community that we can thrive in, that we can thrive and that we can push the edges, that we can get uncomfortable, that we know that part of our job is to push our boundaries, our comfort boundaries, and that we're in this community that's committed to supporting each other's greatness coming out. And so that when we come in with that kind of commitment, if someone says something that kind of offends us, first going to, did that person mean a personal thing that bothered me? Or are they just saying what's alive in them today, and I'm going to choose to see their greatness? Okay, it's a slightly different piece, and I'm just trying to get to the safety thing, because sometimes what I've seen is when we get too confused about trying to make it so safe for everybody, sometimes we miss being in the truth and the aliveness of the moment. And I know that's so much of what Kait's going for. She's going to invite us to push a couple boundaries. And so may we do so in a way that really supports our thriving. Simone, I don't have those agreements posted, but I can create them for you. Okay. All right, enough of me. Let's talk to Kait. Enough of us. This was an us thing. Okay, I'm going to pin her video. You can choose to just see her, or you can go back to gallery view. It's really how you like to experience your class. Okay.
Thank you, Leah. And thank you, everyone. Yeah, what a perfect way in, because those agreements just kind of advance where we're at. And that was some of the stuff that I wanted to touch in on and set container for also. So just really spot on matches what I think is important about setting a container, including looking around the room and acknowledging you might perceive similarities or differences with people here, and on so many levels, right? Race, gender expression, perhaps knowing things about your own sexuality, assumptions you might make about someone else's sexuality based on age, class, location. You know, there's so many things that we could assume and we just really don't know. So yeah, as Leah guided so beautifully, we're here to uplift and support each other's greatness. And that I liked how Karyana, you said it like almost like pedestalize yourself. So having done that glance around the room, for the rest of this time, and we will do some interactive pieces, but for the rest of this time, I want to just really encourage you to bring that lens of focus into yourself. And this is really what this time is. It's the acronym I use, mindful erotic embodiment, is me time. So this is like me time. This is for you. So just gonna keep orienting that back into yourself and that awareness into yourself, even as you share with each other. And there will be, just as to tag on to the agreements, just to add in a little bit of expectation, there will be a couple of moments where you'll be able to popcorn in reflections or experiences. And I'll invite you to either do that in the chat or just come off of mute and say it. And then there will be at least one point where we'll do a breakout room with a partner to just share. And in that, I'll give you time first to just really ground with your own reflections. So if you're keeping a journal for this class, a time to really do that self-reflection alone first. And then, it's all participation is optional here. So if you're paired up with someone, you can always choose how much or what or how you share with the other person. And yeah, and as we've gone into so far, after doing those introductions, being off camera is just fine. And Patrick, it looks like you joined a little bit later, but I want to echo what Leah offered before. We would love to see your face if you want to say hi. You're totally welcome here. And Simone and Diana also welcome. And yeah, and the safety piece. Thank you, Leah, because that's actually one of the chunks that I want to go into. I won't start right there, but this is part of deepening somatic awareness, and somatic responsibility is to actually know what taking responsibility for our safety means and what safety in the body feels like. So I love that you touched on that, and we'll get deeper with that in just a bit. So yeah, you've shown up for a class on erotic embodiment, and maybe you have some experience with this, maybe something in the description lit up for you, or maybe it's really quite a stretch for you to be here. But what I want you to know, like, if I had one definition of what Eros is, to invite that, it's really a welcoming of whatever is. I think one of the core experiences I have of Eros is that it refuses nothing. So it encompasses the wholeness. And that's the bottom line that I want to invite you into today, is that we're not here for, like, I'd like to kind of relatively, you know, there's a lot of sex educators out there who are promising multiple squirting orgasms, you know, in these 3 easy steps. And that is not what I do. What I want to do is create the space for everything that comes up along the way to your full vitality. And that might include a lot of discomfort. It might include pain, trauma, grief. And that is part of what it means to be a full spectrum human. The wholeness of life and death. So, and really knowing that through the body. Yeah. So yeah, with that, I guess if I was to add something to the agreements, it would be an invitation to meeting yourself with compassion and curiosity. So I'm holding you all with compassion and curiosity and invitation for all of you, all that is. So there are these moments where I'll pause and slow down. And I just want to acknowledge that slowness is the number one teacher in all of what I do, and how I find my way into erotic aliveness, and what I want to offer you. If, yeah, again, there's kind of a foundation of what you could take away today, it would be to invite slowness, and what space to just like pause and take a breath and check in, what that offers us. So yeah, so with that, I want to invite us back into that grounded, self-aware state. What we'll be doing is kind of bringing the awareness and attention into the body to meet what is there and what the body has to say, to express, to release, to just let be known as I said, as that pathway to vitality. So right now, I want to invite you to settle in and to a state that's comfortable. And you might just play around with having your eyes open or closed as you notice your breath. Maybe you can take in any smell, the sounds in your environment. I have a lot of rain falling on my roof right now. Maybe there are sounds right up close, and maybe you can extend your reach of hearing a little farther out. Just notice what's accessible. And there's really no goal here other than just to learn about what you can notice, kind of self-tracking. So you could even play around with different options. If you open your eyes, can you feel more or less? And as you bring more attention to the body, can you feel the points of contact of your body against the seat, behind you, beneath you? What parts of your back are touching? Can you give your weight over a little bit more into the seat? Can you sense even further beneath your body? How far does that go? That sense of awareness below you, into the ground, the earth. And let your breath deepen. And with your breath, you can invite more openness, more access to feeling what is. And if you open your awareness above your body and feel how that might affect your root, just feel that full extension of your vertical body, your spine, your crown to your root. Notice your front and your back. Are you leaning forward? Are you leaning back? Is there a sense of balance, left or right? How much awareness do you have to the left and to the right? Is there anything you could do right now to be more comfortable? Any adjustments you could make to claim this time and space for yourself? And so you're welcome to stay right as you are, but I'll speak about this little experience now to just say, you know, this grounding exercise is also an experiment and a study of yourself. So just check in right now what you noticed, what you noticed about how you respond to that invitation to deeper awareness inside. And if there was resistance, maybe your mind wandering or thinking of your to-do list, maybe some frustration with the instructions, annoyance with my voice, or agitation in your body. Or maybe you could really feel some heaviness or a deep relaxation, softness. And maybe some of these things you can interpret as your gauge on your sense of safety. And so those interpretations could lead to something that you know about what helps you feel safe. You know, maybe you do feel really comfortable in this group, or really trusting of Leah and of myself. Maybe there's something about being on Zoom in your own space, behind a screen, or maybe there is something about being in connection with this field that Leah sets so beautifully to really be in support of each other. But those are all, you know, the layer of interpretation that gets understood based on these feelings, those sensations of what safety actually feels like in your body. So I just want to check in with people. Hand raises, who, or like if there's something more embodied, expressive, who felt something kind of uncomfortable there? Couple hands. Who felt something kind of pleasant? Yeah. What about anything that arose that was like really uncomfortable? Any gut drops or heart racing or, yeah. And how about anything that was just like kind of hard to access? Moments where I don't even know what I'm feeling. I don't know what she's talking about. Sensation. Yeah. So quite a range. Does anyone who raised your hand or otherwise want to pop on and share something of what you experienced, or is there any? And we'll keep talking about it all. But if you have a question or comment or just want to share about your experience so far. Eric, yeah. And then Katya.
Hey, everybody. So I'm used to one-on-one coaching. And so hearing Kait's voice, knowing that there's also a group of people in the room or in this space with me has been a little bit different. And so that was the resistance that I was feeling.
And how did you feel that in your body?
The lower back, below sort of like my lumbar area, it was getting tight. And so as I was sinking in through the work that we've done, I've learned to listen to my body a little bit more. But this was really telling me that this was an uncomfortable new experience for me.
Thank you. Katya, did you want to share something?
I felt some vulnerability and grief, but with a tenderness and something beautiful, you know, in all that. Yeah, and I felt it in the heart that was breathing much more subtle and much more open and deeply, the whole chest area. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both. Yeah, those touch on some really important parts of this. That, yeah, the intimacy, like I said, begins with self. And then, as Eric pointed out, sharing it with the group, that's very different. And that's an edge. And yeah, Katya, I want to let Mary speak, and then I'll get more into like the tenderness of what it is to be opening to feel. Go ahead, Mary.
This is the first experience I've had with such a class, and I've made myself face this. And I know I'm not supposed to probably use this word, but I do feel safe with Leah. That she the ambiance of the group, she sets that tone. And so I felt dizzy, and my throat totally constricted, my throat chakra and my shoulders and neck. But the dizziness, and I kept saying, I'm staying in my body. I'm staying in my body. And I thought it was actually a great experience, because I need to face me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. One of the distinctions I've heard from other teachers that's really useful is that we're creating a brave space. So where safe can be so charged and difference of, you know, the question of where that responsibility lies. So thank you, Mary, for really claiming your braveness in this space. And so, yeah, this is the slow approach of how this work can be really meaningful, is to actually take the time to acknowledge that edge. And I just want to honor that, what each of you spoke as there's an edge you're experiencing. And this is where I just want to always invite you on your edges to take exquisite care of yourself. So in that, you know, just a word on what trauma is. I like the definition that trauma is too much, too fast. Too much stimulation, for our nervous system to process. And that what we're doing right now, turning toward the body, is opening those gates on what hasn't been processed, what hasn't been felt all the way through the body and moved through the nervous system. So, trauma is such a chargy word, and people tend to think of an acute circumstance with that word. But I just want to acknowledge that the too much too fast is basically the chronic state we're living in right now. With COVID, the political and social arena being so unstable, President Biden, which just feels good in my mouth, just spoke of the cry for survival coming from the planet herself, a cry that can't be any more desperate or any more clear. And in as much as we are the earth and are interdependent with our fellow humans, so many of whom are suffering in so many ways, we are all being impacted by a lot of stress that is sometimes an unbearable amount. So just want to bow to that and really honor that the option or the choice is really, really a bold choice to turn toward feeling it all. There's just so many reasons here to numb out, to check out, to disconnect. And there's so many options for doing that. So many ways that we all can do that all the time. So even in the slowing down and even in the dropping in, and even, Mary, as you say, like that commitment, I want to invite slowness in that and modulation in that. So one of the ways you can take exquisite care of yourself is if you're closing your eyes and you start to get dizzy or checking out, or it looks like someone, I'm not going to totally read the chats, but it looks like someone said falling asleep. That's an indication that you might need to like come out a little bit. You can always open your eyes. You can have something in the room that you can turn your gaze to that's resourcing to you, that's reconnecting you to present time, present moment. Really basic tidbit on just how we can, some trauma healing tool is to just look like I did in the meditation, like get a sense of what is to your left, above you, to your right, beneath you, even look behind you and around, like really open your eyes, your social engagement muscles, and take in, like, it's another way of turning on different parts of your brain so that you can access more of what's in your body. Yeah, and more on that in further deeper work, but just one basic tool that you can keep with you all the time. So that some of that feels pretty heavy, and the good news is that there's two sides to this coin. We're so deeply connected, and that the more we learn to feel, the more we feel. That also means the beauty. The more we open ourselves to the heartbreak and the grief and loss and pain and disappointments, we're also opening ourselves to true intimacy, to more pleasure, to love, and to celebration. And that, the scope of humanity and the earth that I named we're connected to are also so resourcing, right? We are in connection and interdependent in ways that feed us, that nourish us literally in our food every day, in the beauty that we receive in intimacy with the natural world, with other people, inspiration of collective movement and evolution. So this is also, it's just that again, to come to the philosophy of whole spectrum. We don't have the highs without the lows, but that what we also get, we get those highs. Yeah. So one step in that direction, I want to take us back in your own space. And so with that new, or if it's not new, that even more self-responsibility for taking exquisite care of yourself. Get even more comfortable right now. Get into what feels safe and good in your body. And I want to invite you to come draw up from your memory bank a time when you felt safe, when some of those sensations of relaxation, of being at ease in your body. The phrase comfortable in your own skin really means something. Sometime in your life when you felt comfortable in your own skin, when you knew you could be yourself, express yourself in an environment or a place where you could feel what it was that you needed or wanted, and that you could ask for that would be respected, or that you could create that for yourself. And place yourself there, noticing everything you can about that circumstance, where you're located. Are you indoors or outdoors? Maybe there are others there. Maybe you're alone. Maybe you're in the natural world and feel connected to non-humans. Notice what your breath feels like here. Notice how your belly feels. And see if it feels okay to put attention on your pelvis, your root. If there's any contraction, tension, or if there's softness. And just check out the textures of all the sensation here. If there's heaviness or lightness anywhere in the body, if anything is moving, vibrating, if that movement has any direction, upward, outward. How fast or slow this feels. And at this level of sensation awareness, if I didn't know what safe meant or felt like, how would you describe that to me? And maybe there's other further layers of how you feel it that are emotional. Maybe there's a phrase, something that the body says here or knows about yourself or about the world that you're inhabiting. And so just bookmark this as this place, this way of knowing, and knowing what safe actually feels like in your own body, and that this is your opportunity and your responsibility to orient from here, to reorient and to find it and claim and create that. You might not have always had such agency over your body, but in this class and as much as possible going forward in your life, I just invite you to try this on and use this bookmark of what felt sense of safety in your body is an experiment with what you need to help you get there. So you can come back into your consciousness if you want to jot anything down about that. If there's anything you want to share with the group. And it's a place that can evoke resistance, which is part of the pathway. The body is always speaking. And as we orient our intentions and our desires, the stuff that comes up along the way is part of the path. Not to be gotten over, gotten past, but it's really part of the teacher.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
So I struggle to tell the difference between whether I'm anxious or just excited.
Awesome.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I had a teacher who said, fear is just excitement without breath. So an experiment you could do there is to bring more full, deep breath. And yeah, it's good that you point that out, because people will tell me they're anxious and I want them to break it down to the sensations. What does that feel like in your body? And do you want to name some of those sensations, what that is for you?
So I felt really relaxed, and I was like in my safe, happy place. And then I got to like this like heart area, and it was beating really fast. And then that's when I was like, oh, like, what's that? Like, am I anxious? Did I just have too much cacao this morning? But otherwise I was feeling really like safe and relaxed everywhere else in my body, but it was just like the heart.
Cool. That's a great segue for where we're going next, because I start with just really breaking it down to the super, super simple sensations, right? And we can just continue to verse ourselves in those sensations beneath the level of interpretation. But there's a point at which you can also ask your body, what do you say? Like, what do you need? What's happening? And what do you need? And there's different ways that the language of the body can speak to you even more clearly. Which we'll go into experientially in just a moment. Does anybody else want to share or ask anything here? Yeah, Amy.
I was feeling really comfortable until we got to the place that there was how would you describe safety? Mm-hmm. And it was the sensation of my mind getting into that, of, you know, words that came in that it felt like that student who wants to get it right kind of feeling of like, the first word that came to me was secure. And I was like, well, secure doesn't really describe that. And so I had to kind of stop myself for a moment and just be like, I feel safe, and that's all that's important right now. But it was an interesting sensation.
Well, I want to celebrate that you just came back to like, not going to try to explain it, going to know what it is for me. Because yeah, it is, like, that's why I use the words language and translate and literacy, because it is a hard thing to turn sensation into, even register what the sensation is, and then to turn it back into the mind. Instead of the mind being the only one who's making awareness and assessment about what's happening. So yeah, I put that describe to me because it's one option that might work for people, of like, if I was an alien and I didn't, you know, and I only understood vibration, sensation, texture, color, you know, if I didn't know the interpretive, the emotional or interpretive language. That's kind of the idea behind that prompt, but great that you just got to come back to what it feels like for you. And then, yeah, and then it sounds like, I mean, secure is a great description. And I'd be like, oh, well, secure feels to me like I have a shell behind me that I can rest into, or, you know, something more somatic, like specifically in the body that I could feel with my felt senses. And you could bounce that around, just trying different descriptions on. Any other last bits, Eric? Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to be a visual experience. Like, my body sends me visual messages. And so at first I was anxious about the idea of what secure meant, because it really triggered that I didn't feel secure in the moment here. But then I sort of just let it do what it does and began to relax. I was getting this vision of being held nude by a woman, and me leaning back into her. And then once I started having that vision, I sort of just started to relax even more.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. And then comes in the opportunities for inviting more of what you do want to feel, right? Like, oh, that's something that the imagination brings forward, of what I know helps me feel safe, or what I have felt like, you know, the memory, maybe that was something that came from the memory of, like, you have these registry points in your life of when it's felt safe, and you can access that again. That's one of those pieces of, like, the good news that comes with the bad news. As much as those traumatizing experiences get locked in the body, the positive ones do too, if you really take them in and experience them as much as you can. So saturating and savoring is another, it's part of the upside of the slowness, is getting to just really, this is what feels good. You guys ready to go in again? Yeah, some head nods. Is there something, Kariana?
Yeah, I just had a question about, for me, it took me to my childhood, which was before the age I would have been aware of sensuality, or so I didn't know what you were aiming for. I didn't know if that's where I should be, or if I should be at a different time in my life. So I had this mind, what am I supposed to be doing? But that's the first thing that came to me, was childhood. And I thought of another moment. I was like, I'm going to stick with the childhood and just be that child. But it was just something I was struggling with initially.
Thank you. Yeah, and this one, that is great, because part of our moving really slowly is we're just in that one going for core sense of security, safety in your body. So that could be at any point. Yeah, like I said, there's the build toward, it's almost like a courtship, just like it would be with an erotic experience with another human. To access more of that in ourselves, we have to just like say hello and have a cup of tea together, build rapport. We're just like building rapport with our own bodies, as the way into more erotic access. So totally great that you started in childhood. And let's move right along to where we get toward, and so I am still building slowly. Probably the last exercise, this next one, it might evoke more sensual or erotic stuff, and it might not. It might be just might or might not, and that's part of welcoming everything. To be a little more, set expectations a little more clearly, the exercise after that, where we'll be more like tactilely engaged, that will be one that I might be more explicit in the invitation to what feels arousing and pleasurable. And so thanks for naming that, which helps me clarify for you all kind of how we're going on this trajectory. Okay, any last bits before we dive in again? All right. So again, come back to your own settled self. Oh, Janet, did you have something? No? Okay. Great, so come back into yourself. You who are your first priority here. And just do a scan of your body to just check in and say hello from head to toe in your own timing. And just like that Xerox machine light, kind of scrolling through, just saying hello to the muscles, the connection points with your seat, your clothing, really feeling yourself in 3 dimensions here. So your front to your back and side to side as you scan down the body. Just noticing what's here now. Where there's tension and where there's ease. And you can invite a little bit more of a full breath. And with the breath, that invitation to curiosity and compassion with yourself. And if it feels good to you, you can bring a hand to your heart, or both hands to your heart area, to just focus extra attention here in this heart center. You can breathe into your hand. Imagine your breath coming and filling your chest and meeting your hand, and your hand really meeting it back. Saying hello to what's here. Notice the sensations, the pace of your heart. the quality of the sensations here? Is there any emotion attached to it? And really welcome whatever it is that's here. A resistance, or maybe a longing, maybe a hunger. An eagerness or a withdrawal, whatever it is. Just say hello and welcome. And again, is there anything that you need or need to express, release, or receive? Maybe that's something that you can easily give to your heart right now, or something to make a commitment to returning to at the right moment. And as you breathe, you can bring your awareness deeper down your body, through your solar plexus. You can breathe into your belly. And you're welcome to move your hands along with this dropping awareness all the way to your hips. And if it feels good to you, you can let your hands really meet the container of your pelvis, your hips from left to right. Feel those bones that are holding this structure of your pelvis that holds you up. And from front to back, your sacrum, you can imagine it, or you can place a hand there. All the way to the front, your pelvic bone. And bring your breath along with this awareness. And again, just check in with how much of this feels right and good and accessible to you. And do what you need to take good care of yourself. And see if you can bring your breath and awareness all the way to your perineum, that root place of your body, the very bottom. This is between your anus and your genitals. And you're welcome to have your touch wherever feels right to you, to just hold and attend. And breathe into your hand. And listen for the sensations. The textures. Any movement, vibration, pulsing. Notice if there's any particular rhythm or pace to anything that's there. And maybe there's a sense of numbness or not being able to feel. Just notice that and see if you can stay curious and compassionate and keep listening, or do what you need to do to come back to listening when you can. And you can ask into this space, is there anything that's wanted or needed? Notice your breath, if it stays soft and deep, or if it quickens or tightens. Notice again, you can do a scan up your body to just check in. How is the rest of the body responding to you putting your attention here at this root? Notice your neck and your jaw. And check in if there's any movement throughout the body or any movement that's wanted. And allow your breath, as it is continually flowing through your whole core, to draw along with it your attention back up your body, and you could bring one of your hands along with it up the front of your body to meet again eventually with your heart. And just stay with, in your own pace, this space between your pelvis and your heart. So in that movement upward, including the genitals, including the belly, including the solar plexus. And just really take your time to notice where is there a feeling of ease or softness, expansiveness, and where are there feelings that might be contracted or sharp, maybe even some sense of a block. Just keep your breath moving as you notice gently that compassionate awareness on how this feels, this center in your root and this center in your heart, and the spaces in between them. And there's no forcing needed here, just exploring. Again, bring that studying mind, and you can experiment. If you do have a desire, you could visualize bringing that in with an intention to be open, to be softer, to really know what that connection between the heart and the pelvis is, or to allow it to be more connected. Notice your breath. You might even envision a circuitry of your breath, dropping down the front of the body to the pelvis, and up the back of the body. Exhaling down. And just see if it feels right to invite that openness and that connection. And what happens in the heart to invite that? What happens in the pelvis to invite that? And what happens if you bring intention or desire to bring more energy to either of these places? Perhaps you want to feel more aliveness. And can you stoke that fire by bringing your breath, your loving attention and encouragement to allow for even more presence in each of these or one of these locations? And just take another couple breaths to anchor this in, to give yourself a bow of gratitude for however you met this journey, this little exploration. Maybe you can acknowledge one thing that you've learned or that you did to stretch into your edge or to take really good care of yourself. And I want to invite a really gentle transition out of this space into some self-reflection. So if you have a journal, you can pull that out as you'll have a few minutes here to just kind of come back into your cognitive mind and collect what that was for you, what you noticed, what you learned about yourself. If you want to journal or draw, or you can be on mute and sing about it, speak about it. And as you do that, I want to ask Leah if you'll put us in breakout rooms so that people will then have a partner to share with. And just know again that your sharing is totally optional. We'll keep time for you, but you'll have just about 3 minutes each, and you can use that time however you wish or not.
How many people do you want in the breakout rooms?
Just 2, I think. Yeah, just pair up. And that when the other person is speaking in that time, you're just a compassionate listener. So no reflection, no response. When they finish, you just say thank you. And each person will take their turn. So yeah, go ahead and take your self-reflection time now. And in a few minutes, you'll have a breakout buddy.
As always, it's your option to participate or not. And what I'll do is I'll just watch the rooms and see who is there, and then I'll make sure that everyone has a room to be in. There's a chance that there might be one room of 3 people, but we will. Kate, do you want me to go ahead and put people in the groups, or do you want to wait?
You could go ahead and then they'll go when they're ready. Yeah. Shared journey. Let's hear from Dominique, a voice we haven't heard much of yet.
I find it really interesting to, by this last exercise, to put the hands on one hand on the heart and one on the pelvis, on the bones and on the perineal. As when I found safety, it was with someone I was really well and safe with, and actually it's not safe anymore. So to put that to my heart, there was something about confidence in myself. Yeah, to learn to listen more, and it's a good way to go back to those safety, to recall them, those safety feelings and body sensation. I think it's a good way of finding confidence again, perhaps.
Beautiful. Yeah, and in case it feels redundant to anyone, this time we're taking to establish that sense of safety and of comfort, these baselines, it's from there that we can experience so much more. What always sticks with me is like, I'm not going to have an orgasm if my feet are cold. Like, stop and put some socks on, or like tuck my feet in, like do what you need to do or lock the door, like those basic safety and comfort things are what allow us to open and surrender and feel more in our, ultimately, we're aiming for pleasure. And like I say, that it really has to encompass the full spectrum of all of what's to be felt. But yeah, responsibility for that baseline. Who else had something? Penelope?
First off, I love your voice. And, when you started and you set the frame for slowness and slowing down, and what I absolutely just found incredible was the pace, the way you slowly moved us from, working our way down the body and then coming back up. And so it allowed, by the time I started moving back up from the pelvis, I started like this energy. It was like this sort of, this energy started building in my body. But I realized afterwards that it really had to do with the slowing down and the connection between heart and pelvis and all of those energy centers and the movement of that. So this was quite beautiful. Thank you so much.
Great. Good. Thank you. I'm glad you got to feel that connection.
Thank you.
Put that in. Yeah. Anyone else? Challenges as well as enjoyment? Maybe enjoying the challenges. Stephanie.
Yeah, one thing that I did discover
is that, so I got to put this together in my breakout room. I had a harder time on my own, but for me, it's very difficult for me to create safety with anyone else present. Like I just needed to be alone, which is hard. But then also my body feels kind of hardened to the outside world. So it's not even like it's not even like, oh, when I'm alone, I'm safe. It's like, I feel like I'm never, like, I feel like I'm always like, on guard or feeling like unsafe, that's a really hard thing to deal with. So it's hard. Hard is the word,
Visceral.
Yeah.
And did you touch in on any of the access to something that feels safe or open in yourself, with yourself? Or like a pathway to that, any of those edges?
Well, not really. I think it's just like I can breathe into it and I can feel it expand from the inside, but the outside is still compressing everything down, and inwards.
Yeah, so how I would work with you in a more expanded way is to really let yourself feel both of those things and expand on, like, let that hard edge fully be there and explore the textures of it, explore how thick it is, how hard it is, feel it fully, and modulate back to feeling, oh, you have this softness inside, or feeling something that you have built more access to, that feels resourcing, that feels nourishing, safe, good. Resourcing is kind of the word I use for that. And build a relationship between the two. And with those being able to both be welcome and felt is where things start to shift. So just being with that. So thank you for being willing to even notice it all and take it all in, and even naming it is part of like honoring it and giving it attention. So I can just come back to that where I started is to honor those defenses, those protective mechanisms, even coping strategies, like those all came in for a really good reason at the right time. They might have helped you survive. And so there's a matter of like bowing to them, thanking them, acknowledging and honoring, and saying, like, it's like there's a warrior at your gates that's like, armor is up and weapons are drawn, and you can be like, thank you, the war is over, I know how to create safety for you now, and you can try on trusting me if you can let that armor down a little bit in this circumstance and build trust. And it's a relationship to build, and ultimately that strength, it still has a purpose to serve, but it might not need to be every day, all the time, in all of your interactions with the world. You can know how to have agency with it, how to turn it off and on.
Cool.
Yeah. So thanks for honoring it.
Thank you.
Anyone, maybe one more? A lot there. This is a big step of just spending that much time and inviting that much awareness, especially between the heart and the pelvis, where we tend to hold so much energy and emotion and memory. Or we can move on. So rich. Thank you all for being on this ride. Yeah, Eric, you want to share something?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to keep taking up too much time with my shares, but it helps me to calibrate myself by sharing. but I still feel an incredible amount of vulnerability being here. And I know right now I'm brute forcing it. So, which for me means like I'm staying in the moment, even though I want to run. And just want to thank everybody for just, you know, making me feel comfortable enough to sort of work through that. Thank you.
Sweet. You see the twinkle fingers of encouragement. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. And you speak for parts of, I'm sure, everyone. I can say myself too, like vulnerability is a huge thing to be with in opening intimacy with self and of course others. It's always that paradoxically powerful thing to name vulnerability. It helps us all. So, at the risk of being redundant, just to come back to like Eros, eroticism, what I understand as like as our core life force, right? Like I have you orient to the genitals and the root, because this is the it's both like the base of our own body, like where we connect to the ground beneath us. And it's also our sex, which is how we were all created and how we were birthed, even if not vaginally. This is, you know, in the uterus, and sex is how it's creation. And whether that's used in your own body to create literal new human life, it is your creative life force. And yeah, we've societally just have compartmentalized and disempowered and dissected, and you know, every form of abuse to what that energy is in its purest form, and yet it persists in this is why I keep referencing the natural world, because she, he, they, the non-gender, all gender reality of this living planet is relentless. And that force is in your body as well. Creative impulse to life is inherent in your being, in every breath, every heartbeat. Creation is coming through you. And in the kind of more human egoic language, it's that expresses as desire. And I think, you know, in part because of how oppressed and kind of, I think bastardized is probably an appropriate word for what's been done to Eros and to sex. Because of how squashed down it's been, we also have a really distorted relationship with our desires, right? There's in some way a lot of humanity's kind of short-sighted and narrow-minded and selfish desire is what has gotten us into the catastrophic situations that we're in these days. And yet there is a core energy there that is connected, that is connected to everyone, to the ecosystem that we're living in, to the society or communities that we're living in, that is generative. Your desire can be a force for connection, for empowerment of each other, right? It can be a co-creative force for more beauty, for more life, for more vitality, for all people. It doesn't have to be a tunnel toward progress at all cost, you know, in one direction. So not that I think that that's a risk for anyone consciously, but there is a lot of reasons that we don't let ourselves want, that we get in the way of the of our desire and our pleasure. Yeah. So there's a whole lot of philosophical rant I can go into with that, but it's just a spark to drop on your fire, or a little fuel to add to your fire, that your desire is part of your essential essence that is necessary to creating the world we want to live in, to contributing to a vision of the world that, you know, here you are in this unity course and story framing course. We have a question. Let me just finish this thought. So I just want to encourage and invite your relationship to, what do I really want? And from that sense in the body that we've been touching into, you know, even in the moment, like, what does my body really want and need right now? As a starting point. Yeah, Janet, do you want to ask something?
Yes. Would you care to speak to maybe the difference between sexuality and sensuality? Because I do appreciate sexuality, but I think I like to expand my opportunities to really take in through my senses all that the world and the atmosphere has to offer. Like, say, there's like some beautiful evenings where I can just feel the air and it just feels so luxurious, I could maybe say. Or I've also heard, so like swimming, I happen to be single. And so I do think about that, like how do I really fulfill that like touch and pressure needs that I have? And I've been told like through swimming, you know, that in itself can help. So any thoughts on that?
Brilliant. I'm so glad that you have found those resources. I feel very similarly. My bio on my website, I might have changed it, but it used to say that my primary erotic relationship is with the wild river where I live, because same, like getting tumbled by the water, surrendering to that life force that meets my life force, and getting to dance together with the natural world is it's definitely sensual, and doesn't necessarily have to be sexual to be totally erotically fulfilling. And honestly, is just because we've been touching on trauma, there's so much access to the sensual that can be decompartmentalized with where people have experienced violation, which is just unfortunately all too common, to have those associations be so closely knit. But if you can, lean up against a tree and like nuzzle your butt into the softness of the grass and feel held and even aroused by that, or even just have your life force evoked, you know, that fuzzy line of sensual, sexual, but pleasure and safety and turn on, that I use pretty broadly to just mean like, like I'm alive and excited and passionate and want to create, right? It's that same flavor.
Thank you. And thank you, but don't forgive me, but you make me actually think about, there's been times in my life where it's been so beautiful in nature that really is sexually stimulating.
Oh yeah. Just quickly, Leah mentioned tanning sheep hides. something we've done together, right? This full spectrum. I feel like the natural world has just teaches us about Eros so clearly in that embrace of the full cycle of death, decomposition, and new birth or growth, full growth into senescence and death again. So I've actually taught a retreat where we tanned sheep hides and did erotic embodiment work, where people are in that visceral meeting of something that is like a disregarded, you know, what's it called, like a discard of the industrial the meat industry, right? And it's bloody and poopy and has soaked in salt. It's like this disgusting thing that we put our grief into. We put our pain into, with working that with our muscles and cleaning it with our hands and our tears and our prayers, and being with that fullness of the viscerality of what has to die every day for us to live. And then seeing that transform into beauty and into soft, sensual, fluffy, thick, like you want to just rub your naked body all over it. And we did. Yeah, life-giving, sensual, pleasurable beauty. So yes, to the natural world. That's part of why and how the natural world holds all of it. Destruction and creation. And your body holds all of that too. So we're coming so close to close, and I want to do one more dive just to make some space for that quality of experience. So real quick, not that anything we do is quick, but this part's simple. Find an object in your space that is small enough to fit in your hand. Could be anything. Don't even think about what it is. Be sure to go on mute if you're not on mute. Something that might have interesting textures, but as we've been doing, we're just focusing on pure sensation. And come back to your space and drop in to where you can be comfy again. And actually, to start, just set the object down, but within reach. And as we do, take a moment to settle in, check in with how you could be even more comfortable right now. And if you're not muted, please mute yourself. And feel your breath. And feel the weight of your body resting in your seat. And as you settle in, as Janet just modeled for us, call to mind a memory or maybe a dream of a place where you feel sensually alive. And maybe it is in the natural world, or maybe it's with just the softest, fluffiest blankets in a cozy, warm place. Some place where you have felt this relaxed and open, safe in your body, really happy, maybe even excited or aroused. Somewhere in that range of sensual pleasure. Just take in everything about that, the temperature, time of day, any sounds you're hearing, if there's water moving by, there's wind or birds. And from here, at your own choice, and if it feels right, take up this object. And this is if you are wanting to invite this object into this space with you to explore. And just feel initially the textures of this object in your hands, your fingertips. Notice its weight. Notice anything that's shifted in your body since picking it up. Your breath or your heart rate. Anything maybe that's leaning toward it or away from it. And really try to drop any thoughts or interpretation you have about what the object is, its function. Just really let yourself be curious about how it feels to you. You can roll it between your fingers or over the fullness of your palm. Maybe the back of your hand or even your arm. And just really take your time. Let yourself be curious about all of its different edges, temperature, and pure sensation, both right there at the point of contact with your body and penetrating more deeply into the flesh beneath your skin. Maybe if the impact of it reaches anywhere else in your body. Maybe if anywhere else in your body is drawn to feel this object, its pressure, its maybe lightness, maybe it can tickle or scratch you. Just really let yourself breathe in that curious, compassionate exploration. There's no right or wrong. This is still you for you with something new that's possible to feel. And stay with your breath. You can ask yourself, what might be more pleasurable right now? And we're just being brief with this one, but just take another couple of breaths to notice where there's opportunity for this exploration of sensation and pleasure. And how one point of contact can ripple out, or can evoke sensation or any other sense of longing or attraction from different parts of your body. And you can, as you're ready, set the object back down. Maybe a gesture of gratitude for it being so objectified for your pleasure. And as you come back, I just want to name that that little teaser taste of an exploration is something that I want to invite you to practice at any point with your own body. And I want to say that as far as being in touch with me, you'll get a follow-up email that will include a link to an audio download. You can listen to me guiding you in a very similar thing of you exploring with your own body. So that's kind of the next step from there. Fun exercise to continue. And you'll also from there get my website and contact for upcoming courses, a lot more on those philosophies of Eros and desire and trauma, to keep learning and keep working. And before we go, I want to give everyone's voice and expression a moment to fill the room. So just a moment to reflect from where you are, again, this being about you and your experience. Just check in with something that you discovered today, something that maybe you learned, or that you, by me teaching, or by you just learning from your own body. Something that you want to celebrate about that. And consider how that feels in your body. If there is a gesture or a movement or a posture of how it feels to like, oh, this, I'm like owning that. Like, when I think of it, I sit a little more upright. I'm like, I'll just model. Like, I got to experience myself in this teacher seat, and there's like, just feels like this, sitting in the teacher seat. So I want to pass that around the room for everyone to just a quick moment to, you can all come off mute and to one at a time embody, gesture, something that you received, something you're celebrating, received or discovered that you're celebrating.
I feel like I'm celebrating that I'm opening up. I'm opening my whole life up. And what I chose as an object, but I didn't do it on purpose, was a flower. And I didn't, so I'm opening. I'm opening. And it's a glimmer of light. And what did Cohen say, this Leonard Cohen, the music, when the light comes in the bell, the crack, that's what's happening. Thank you so much.
For me, so the object doesn't matter, but I realized my hands are ticklish. The tips of my fingers are ticklish, which was new for me. But what I learned today is I just made another step in my journey. I just want to thank you all for being a part of that.
Well, I really enjoyed the last little exercise we did to bring sexuality back into sensuality, sorry, into just a normal object, and to get in. It's not necessarily a situation, but a mind space, you know, and to bring that back in it can, yeah, that. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Well, my object was a crystal, a rock, and it just sort of was sort of funny because I didn't choose it because had just been talking about hardness, but that's what I chose. So it was fun to feel around the edges of it. Appreciate the edges of my own hardness. I think one thing I got out of today, I would just say that was what I got out of it. I mean, I know that's not particularly succinct, but that's what I would say. So thank you to everyone. Thank you.
I think for me, it was just a really strong reminder of something that I know, which is about the slowness. Like, there's the word that kept coming up for me was luxuriate. Like, when you take small moments over things, and for me, it's like how I hike, that it's not about the exercise of the hike, although that's good for you. It's about noticing all the things along the way, and like the luxury of being able to take moments to really take things in. And that is really a part of my being. And it was a really strong reminder, as the slowdown is the thing. So it feels super aligned and a really amazing reminder. So thank you.
I'll go along with that. I loved slowness, and it's interesting because I chose a small pebble that I have a fountain here in my room, and it was very cold in the beginning, and I was like, oh, I don't like this. It's hard and cold, and then I just went with feeling it and touching it, and all of a sudden it became so sensual, like the way I moved it on my hands, and it was like I had this like incredible experience, like from this object that I really did not like in the beginning. And it was so interesting. It was so reminiscent to me of this idea that you really emphasized about slowing down and really experiencing, like quieting that thought and just going with the sensation of it. And it became incredibly sensual. It was amazing. So thank you so much. It was beautiful. Lovely, lovely space today. Thank you.
I just want to name we're at time. So as people need to go, please do. But Leah also will close us out with one last bit if you can stay. And for those who still want to share, I'm really happy to hear.
There was a phrase you used. You said, build rapport with our own bodies. And I'd never thought of that word with my body. And it just sounded so generous and welcoming and like being a good host, you know? Yeah, it just has, it's such a nice approach. Thank you.
Approach is everything.
For me, I'm not only like opening up in the flower part of me, but I'm like in my heart, but I realized today that I need to also stay open all the way down through my stem and through my roots, and to focus on that openness and that full sensation all the way to top to bottom. And yeah, connecting my whole being. And today was really powerful for awakening that awareness in me and for giving me tools with which to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, I see Katya.
I felt the tenderness and the ability to breathe, because I felt safe, so that the heart is not just holding, but I can breathe more. And because it felt safe, it's so gentle and so, let's say, so normal. Yeah. There's no fear or tenseness. So familiar, so at home. Yeah. Thank you very much. I loved it. Thank you.
Anyone else? No pressure. And there's the chat. That's better for you.
Thank you, Kait. I so appreciate all that you brought to us today, and the depth and the care and the consideration, and just the entryway into this conversation. And I didn't tell people exactly what to expect, in terms of a why. I didn't want to have to give the why, but this course of unity, here we are. We're focused on the second chakra, where our creative life force is living, and our self-care, and it really felt incredibly meaningful and relevant to have an entryway that was so impeccable in that slow sensory awareness and developing connection with self. Is that connection with self and understanding where is the connection, where is the disconnection happening, being part of our journey in unity. So thank you, thank you. And if any of you, as you know, you'll get all kinds of information about Kait afterwards. But if you find yourself compelled to say, "Oh, wow, I'd like to take a couple more classes with Kait in this kind of setting," and if there are enough of you that say yes, perhaps we can court her into offering a short series for us. So email me back and tell me if that is of desire, and we will see what we can do on that. And then the object that I got to have an experience with was this. Isn't it beautiful? And it's made by Kristen Myers, who is just an extraordinary woman who is going to be offering a free workshop on intuitive drawing on Saturday. So I just had it in my hand. So I was like, how can I not show this to people and tell people about Kristen as well? So that is coming this Saturday if you feel compelled to really explore that creative channel and finding all the different ways that you can access that creative life force. So I love that. The creative impulse for life. May you be blessed this week with really finding where that creative impulse for life is living inside of you, and how does it want to be expressed, and following that river of desire and reclaiming that to the etymology of our language, not as something that is banished and doomed and leading you down the path of sin, but leading us to the etymology of that language. With when you're in relationship with desire, you're in relationship with the stars, and you're in relationship with your destiny. And so thank you, Kait, for so kindly, gently welcoming us into this conversation and this path. So with that,
my business doing pleasure with you.
Yes. And I'll just play you some music, and we can all take each other's selves off mute and say farewell in whatever language is yours, and say adieu.
Goodbye.
Bye. Bonjourne.
Goodbye.
À la prochaine.
Until we meet again.
Thank you.